Welcome back to Accessible Gourmet. Today we're making Mandu, or Korean dumplings. To start this dish, we need to take 1 block of tofu and squeeze as much of the liquid out as possible. So I'm just wrapping it up in cheesecloth and using this tofu press that I have on top of the baking sheet to catch any of the water. I like to freeze my tofu and frost it because it changes the texture. A lot of people will freeze twice, but I just did that once. Then we're taking 2 cups of bean sprouts and blanching it in boiling water for 10 seconds before we drain this in a strainer and set it aside to let it dry out more. Next up, we need 2 tightly packed cups of kimchi. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you'll know that I made this quick kimchi. This is a bok choy kimchi about 2 weeks ago, and it's been fermenting in my fridge, and it smells absolutely wonderful. So if you want to learn how I made this, head over to my Instagram or TikTok. The links are at the end of this video. Once it's all nicely chopped up, we're going to drain out as much of the liquid as possible because we don't want a soggy filling. So just strain this out and give it a squeeze and try to push out as much of that liquid as we possibly can. Now that our bean sprouts have dried down a little bit, we're going to give these a nice little choppy chop. Again, mincing these up as finely as we can while still keeping the integrity of the ingredient. Then we are going to take 1 medium onion and give this a very small dice. We're going to set this aside in a bowl. And clean our bench before we chop up 6 scallions. We are using the whites and the greens of the scallions, and just chop these up as finely as you can as well. And these can go in the same bowl as the onions. Technically, all of the things that I'm chopping up could go in one large bowl because everything's going to be mixed together regardless, but this is how I'm doing it just because it keeps me a little bit more organized. Now we're moving on to our ginger and garlic, and I'm taking a 2-inch piece of ginger, and I started microplaning this because you do want it ground down, but for some reason my microplane was not working. It might be time for me to get a new one, so I decided to do this by hand. But if you choose to do it by hand and you don't have a microplane, dice this up as finely as possible. We don't want huge chunks of ginger in our dumplings, and we don't want large chunk of the ginger to poke through our dumpling wrapper. So once this is all chopped up, we're going to toss that in the bowl, and then we are going to finely mince up 6 cloves of garlic as well. And you can throw this in the same bowl as our ginger. Now that our tofu is pressed, we are going to take 3/4 of that block and crumble it up into a large bowl. We'll save that other part for another dish. Then we're going to add 8 ounces of ground pork. Add in our bean sprouts, our kimchi, our onions and scallions, ginger and garlic, as well as 2 slightly beaten eggs, 4 teaspoons of soy sauce, and 4 teaspoons of sesame oil. We really want to mix this well and incorporate all of the ingredients so it resembles almost paste, for lack of a better word. So I started out with a spoon. I know you're supposed to only stir this in one direction according to Asian law, but then I decided to grab some gloves and get in there with my hands just to make sure this is really well mixed. Now I have a package of store-bought wrappers. You can definitely use homemade if you want to. I just wanted to use store-bought for to expedite the whole process. And we're just going to wet the edges after we put a teaspoon of the filling in the middle. Fold this in half into a triangle and press out as much air as possible. Use a chopstick, press down the middle of the dumpling, wet the ends, and then fold it over to form this beautiful little dumpling package. And then a parchment lined steaming basket. We're going to place our dumplings in there, spaced apart because we don't want them to stick together. I'm just steaming up a small batch because I'm freezing most of these for next Friday, which is Lunar New Year. I'm doing a special video for that as well, so I'm kind of excited. So we put the lid on and over boiling water. We are going to steam this for 8 minutes. Then we're going to make a little sauce to go on the side. It takes 1 tablespoon of water to a half a teaspoon of sugar to 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and then 1 teaspoon of rice wine vinegar. You can choose any dipping sauce you like. There's no set in stone thing for this. And once it's all, after 8 minutes is up, we're going to remove the top, and there it is. Beautiful, steamy, delicious little dumplings. And there it is, Mandu Korean dumplings for the Lunar New Year. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, click the like button. If you loved it, subscribe because I put out new videos every Thursday. Until next time, happy cooking.